Let's hurry up. It's already 8:30.
I tried to find my phone and I can't.
I'm not so worried about your phone as I am about you.
Well, I need my phone.
Hey, welcome. It's Captain Matt, Boater's Secret Weapon. I want to thank you for joining us for this Sunday night live. We're getting ready to start here in just a couple of minutes here. We'll start about 8:30. But I wanted to welcome you. If you've never been to a live, here's what you can expect. Just go ahead and chat in your comment section, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. Just ask your question, leave your comment there, and then as we go through the time, I just kind of scroll down all the comments and I try to answer them. Now, if it's something that I need to ask you a question, I may ask you a question and just put it in the chat again, and I'll come back and I'll get that information so I can give you a more personalized response, something that's going to really add value for you. This is just something I do. One, it's great fun. I really enjoy it. It's helpful for the community, just sharing my knowledge. Now, one thing that you need to know, I don't know everything about boats. I know a lot about boats. I've been a boater since I was 5. I've sold boats. It's something that is a big part of my life. With that said, I don't know everything. Matter of fact, sailboats, have zero experience with sailboats. Bass boats, very little experience there. Bow riders, deck boats, center consoles, jet boats, twin engines, stern drives, outboards, inboards, all of that I have experience with. And if I have an answer, I'll give you my best answer. If I don't have an answer, I'll try to give you a resource that will be valuable for you. If I have an opinion, I'll try to give you that opinion, but let you know this is what I think, not what I absolutely know. So I look forward to it. Here's a little video intro that a subscriber made for me. Thanks, Bo. And we'll see you on the live when it kicks off here in just a moment.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sunday Night Live. I am Captain Matt, your host, and I am running late. My family and I were in Knoxville at my brother-in-law's graduation. He graduated from architecture school from UT, and so we just had the 5-hour drive in, and so I was contemplating canceling, but I canceled last week. So I was like, no, we got to get it. So I will get in the groove here. I've got kids that need to get to bed, but I think we'll be good to go. So Rob, I don't know about standing room only tonight, but definitely here. So appreciate it. Yeah, it's on. Ken, good to have you. Jerry, Kings of the City, 211. Jason, good to have you from Lake Cumberland. Bo from Washington State. Just got back from fishing. Didn't catch anything. Columbia runs between awful this year. Good to get out on the water. Got a quick behind the scenes. Yeah, you can see. This is my daughter cleaned out her room before we left. That's all got to go to Goodwill. So, and I don't know what else is all here. It's a mess. If I were to show you the actual setup here, you'd be like, oh my God, that's a disaster. And I don't know where my good webcam is. So you've got, I think we're a little fuzzier than normal. And I got a little caffeine going. So anyway, yeah, that's why we're a little off with usually the smooth, well-produced machine that I run here is a little different. But I tell you what, we stayed at my in-laws' lake place on Lake Loudon, and it was a busy week. We got there late Wednesday night. Graduation was on Friday, I think, all day Friday. There was a reception on one of the nights, and I met up with the boat builder on that was a pretty interesting thing. That a new entrant into the boating world. So more on that to come. But a really good conversation. Had a fun run on the lake. But I tell you what, the cicadas there. I don't know if you guys have them where you're at, but they're pretty loud here. We're about 3 weeks into the 4-week run on the water in the cove that they're in. It was so loud. My wife couldn't even be down at the dock, and they're on the dying end. You can see I got my shirt on. Sorry for what I said, docking the boat. I just started putting together some shirts to have on the at boatersecretweapon.com in the apparel section. And this was my traveling shirt for the day. But it was so loud, and they were dive bombing everywhere as we were down on the dock having a beer. And my father-in-law was power washing the dock, getting it ready. Man, it was so loud, and they were just like flying all over the place. It was crazy. So I don't know if you've got them there, but it was wild in Knoxville, especially on the lake. It was louder than, it was 4 or 5 times louder than it was here in our area. And we're fairly wooded as well. Got the boat back the other day. He's got to decide if it's worth it next weekend with the logs. Yeah, you got to be careful of that. And even since I was a kid, we almost never went on Memorial Day. We very seldom went on the weekends. In a lot of time, we would go on the weekday. We would go on the weekends. We would go in the evening, like after 4 or 5 o'clock. On the weekends, we would do the same thing. Let everybody else boat like 2, 3 in the afternoon, and we would mainly go in the evenings on a couple of the lakes. So that's another one. But yeah, definitely be careful of those logs. That will ruin a season quickly if you got a lot of debris. Keep your speed way down if there's stuff in the water, and keep a really, really good lookout. BC, welcome. Dustin, good to have you. All right, so let me see if I can do this. Dustin, I think this is you. Let me see if I can find. Dustin had some nice things to say about the Best Boat Captain program. And he also was kind enough to send some pictures. And let's see. All right, we'll do a couple of these here. So I think this is Dustin L. Dustin, I'm not 100% sure this is you, but this is Dustin as well. And I'm not sure. Yeah. This might be the same Dustin. I don't know. But anyway, Dustin sent me these pictures of them out on the water in their pontoon. And he sent me a note saying, let's see, what does it say here? He said, yeah, thanks for your best boating course. I had very little trouble with docking that big thing. Feel free to share a couple with the guys on the live if you want, Dustin. So he sent me these. I got a big old Tri-Tune, and I love getting pictures of people, especially ones that have gotten my programs and used my information to buy their boat, whatever. Good looking Harris. I can't tell if that's what model that is, but looks like a swingback maybe. But I love I've got, Dustin, as you probably know, I've got a couple little girls myself. And here's one, a fish he caught, got a nice catfish. So, Dustin, I appreciate you sending those. And I would say this right here, That's what it's all about to me, is just the kids getting into it, having a good time. Those twins on the back seat there. But love it. I love getting those pictures, getting out in the water, kids with their life jackets on, taking the training, doing the best boat captain. So you've got control, you know how to handle it, and having a good, safe time out on the water with the family. You can get the boot camp for free, the toolkit if you're shopping for a boat, and then we've got all of our best boat captain programs as well. So Dustin, thanks for sharing those. And I don't have all my screens set up, so I'm going back and forth. Oh no, I don't know if that's Dustin or not. Lake Conroe had a blast. Mother-in-law understands why I want to buy a boat. That's good. That is very good. All it takes is one afternoon out to figure that out. Bad sign that the dealer still has the same inventory as last year. Still no 24s in stock. Yeah, that's tough. I mentioned that I ran a brand new boat that is brand new to the market. Was up with the owner / designer / do it all guy. Toured their new factory. They've just moved into a new facility, have a couple boats on order, and it was in just outside of Knoxville, and so it was fairly nearby. I drove by the Sea Ray factory, drove by Malibu, where they have the trailer receiving the Monsoon, where they make those engines. And it looks, I don't think it was where they build all the boats, but it was one of their facilities. Yamaha, their main facility, had a crap ton. I've got, my daughter stole my phone from me, but they had a ton of boats wrapped sitting in the lot, as well as who was the other one I went by? Mastercraft. And while I was on the water, Mastercraft and I guess Sea Ray that day were doing their photo shoots for their 25 lineup. So they had their 25 boat photo boats out there, and we're doing photos. They had this, I was probably a 28, 30 foot kind of a center console-ish looking boat, and it had this T on it. So it had the top, and then it went out with like a catwalk on both sides. It was probably a 15-foot span, maybe 12, 15-foot span with a railing around. So all the camera guys, they could have camera people on each end. And as the boat was running, they were either trailing or leading whatever angle they were trying to get. And then the videographer and photographers could be on that catwalk while the chase boat, the photo boat, was going. And it was a pretty cool setup. I thought that was very interesting. But so I did that, saw these a bunch of boats at the manufacturer facility, especially Yamaha. Not so many. Sea Ray, I couldn't get a real good vantage point. Mastercraft was set up for their photo shoot, so I think they probably had some people in, and I couldn't really see where the boats were. And obviously Malibu, I wasn't at the boat building factory, although they had a few probably that were in there getting some warranty stuff done on either the hull or the engines themselves, because there were some Cobalts there. There were some older Malibus, and there was probably 20 what looked to be newer Malibus, shrink wrapped and everything. So anyway, okay, good. That was you. 363 days apart, 4 and 5 years old. Awesome. So thank you, Dustin, for sharing those pictures. So there's a good amount of inventory. The manufacturers are tightening up on staff, laying staff off, and I imagine really limiting production for the 25 models, and letting those, obviously they're going to be building boats, but letting the 23s move out, and the 24s then will need to be moved out as well, because I don't think most manufacturers cut 24s as much as they probably should have. So, but they will, they have to make the adjustments for 25 because the dealers just, one, don't want the boats, two, don't have credit lines to get the boats. Although there are some dealers that are just on their 24s. It kind of depends on how they ordered, how much the manufacturers pushed on them. So used to live in the Woodlands. Yeah, I know that Lake Conroe is just I think south of Houston area, maybe a little bit west or east. I'm sorry. I think that's where it's at. Washington weather, sunny 10 minutes, rain in the 30s. Yeah, I think we're 80s tomorrow. We were high 70s. It was warm out. We've had a ton of rain. We've had a ton of rain the last 2 weeks. But the weather's been warm here at least. 610 boating, welcome. Just sold our 28 Express, looking to go a bit bigger. Thoughts on waiting for a better deal? So 610 boating, tell me where you're at and what bigger means to you. Like, are you looking to go 40? Are you looking to go 35? And are you looking to go new or are you looking to go used? Because there's a couple of things that will impact that, maybe some suggestions depending on where you're looking to go. So let me know that. Punta Gorda, Tim, welcome. Good to have you back. I think you were on last time with us. Ken made a big change to my 9270. Oh, crap. Let me plug in. Of course, I didn't plug in either. Big change. Removed the original black water tank, replaced it with a 25-gallon, plumbed it out the transom so I can empty it like an RV. Be real careful that you're not leaking that sewage into the source, into the water. That can be some severe fines. And depending on where you are, if you're at the coast, you might want to just check to make sure that's legal. There are restrictions on how black water tanks are handled. So I not knowing how you've plumbed it out the transom, just be aware that in some marinas they'll inspect you. It's more on the coast, because on the coast, if you're over, I don't know what the number is, 8 to 10 miles offshore, you can actually dump your raw blackwater tank directly in. But if you do that within, a couple miles of shore, that's a huge fine. I mean, it's something that they'll get checked considerably, consistently. They'll check you for that kind of thing. Some marinas will do inspections to make sure that there's no sewage leakage in their marinas. Freshwater lakes, it's not as common because hopefully people aren't dumping their raw sewage into a freshwater area. So it's not as common, and boats aren't as big to be equipped with that kind of functionality. Matter of fact, if you have a larger vessel, 40 feet and bigger, there's actually there's a little like pin type thing that has to be engaged that won't allow you to use the macerator and send it over. So just be cautious of it. Make sure you're not leaking into your source, and when you're pumping it out. And if you're pumping on land, not as big a deal. If you're pumping in the water, using the pump out in the water, it depends on the setup, but just be cautious with it. All right, we got that. Let's see. The new to market boat, what category was it? So it was a jet boat. It was a jet boat that is sort of designed for a couple specialty areas. Somebody that wants to surf, does a pretty good surf wake. Not a G25 Paragon surf wake, but a good surf wake. I'm not going to say luxury, but more certainly higher quality than the Yamahas, and they're also utilizing the Seakeeper ride system. So the Seakeeper ride system is that the automatic trim tabs. So they're using that not only for the surf settings, instead of having a surf system, they're using the ride, but they're also using that because they don't have trim on with the jet drive system, and they're not using the Yamaha. It was a 23-foot boat with a single jet for, what was it? No, 525 horsepower. They had a 440 and a 525. I think 525 is the right number. But anyway, bigger horsepower that is, I think, after talking with the guy for several hours, running the boat for several hours, and he has a pretty good pedigree in the industry of being involved in boat building and like really knowing what he's doing. And using like all of the things that he wanted to do at the other companies he was with, mass-produced boat builders. That I think this boat will do real well in any areas where somebody wants to surf, but it's shallower and or weedy or rocky. So if you like the idea of having the jet boat because of the shallow water, but you don't want to suck up the weeds and the debris or rocks and run it through a impeller and ding it up, the jet pump, the jet drive was like huge, and stainless steel. And he's like we ran through one of the guys that bought one is up in Minnesota, where they've got a lot of seagrass in the lakes, and so the jet boats are great up there that are on the market now, but it's common to get seagrass stuck in the impeller and you got to clean it out. And they ran theirs up there through like the grassiest part, and it was kind of like a garbage disposal. It just chewed it up and spit it out and kept on running like nothing. So that's the market. And there'll be some more to come on that as well. 40-foot express. Okay, so going to a 40-foot express, you're at a 28. A couple of thoughts. And did you say new or used 610? Let me know. Yeah, let me know if it's new or used. Double vol. Okay, good. Very good. Up in Alberta. Okay, so you guys may have some different rules up there than we do here in the States. But awesome. That sounds like a good system. If you're thinking about those things. So good to hear that. 723 is summer level, 725 and rising here. Cumberland caused not the one you can see. Yeah, the one the ones are just submerged a little bit. Telephone, I was on the water. I don't know where I was, but there was a big old telephone with the T like just rolling down the channel. So got to be careful of those. Wise. Oh yeah, Jerry is up in the Chesapeake as well. All right, so nice getting it equipped for the summer. Okay, so 610. A couple of thoughts. So the first one is make sure you check with insurance and with the lender if you're going to finance a portion of it, to make sure you can get insured and financing if you move up over 10 feet. And they're going to look at LOA. So you said you had a 28 Express. If that truly was 28 foot total length of the boat, they'll let you move up another 10 feet. So they'll let you move up to a 38. If you have extensive boating experience, they may let you go to 40. But if you go to 42 or you find a 43 that you like, now you're sort of on the are they gonna allow you to do it? And still, here's what will happen is the lender, they may not lend on it, but more concerning is they're less stringent on it. But the insurance, they may say, okay, we will insure you, but you have to have a licensed captain with you for a period of time. So what they're wanting to avoid is these people that have an 18-foot runabout and then they go out and they buy a 40-foot cruiser. It's a totally different operational skills. So it's why we've got the twin engine version and the single engine versions of the different drive systems, because it's different. And there's also different systems that can cause a boat to have some major problems if it's not handled properly and not maintained properly. So just talk to your insurance company. We've got an insurance company that would be a great resource for you. If you want to check with them, you can just go to my wife is yelling at one of the kids, so hang on a second. I can't tell if it's just getting better or if it's something more serious. But if you go into resources, if you go to boat insurance quote, you can fill out some information. Will match you with an insurance provider based on the type of boat and the price, the registration, and they will be a good resource for you for questions and making sure that you don't buy a boat or fall in love with a boat that then you're going to have insurance issues with. Next, the main question that you had though is, hey, is now a good time? The cruiser market, that tends to heat up after Labor Day. I don't know why, but for whatever reasons, larger cruisers do more business once you get to Labor Day. But part of it is they're not building many on the new side. So the new if you were to look at market share numbers on used cruisers, I mean, I want to say it was less than 1,000 cruisers over 26 feet. I mean, it's definitely less than a couple thousand. So most of the sales on cruisers are in the pre-owned side. And from there, it's really just a matter of what specifically are you looking for. The market overall is soft up in the Chesapeake, up in the Northeast. It feels like, from the information I'm having, is a little bit softer, a little bit more inventory. So I would say it's definitely a good time to start researching now, taking a look at it. Make sure that you go slow, have everything in place. Insurance, I know what I can and can't do lengthwise. Financing, if you're going to finance, I know what I can and can't finance. I know what my budget is. I've got all of my ducks in a row there. And then when I find the boat, I'm going to really inspect slowly and detailed. And I'm going to do my personal inspection. I'm going to get the Boat Buyer's Toolkit. If you don't have it, boatbuyerstoolkit.com, totally free. And you're going to do your own inspection. You're coming from a 28 Express, so you've got experience with AC, probably a generator, gray and black water systems, water heaters. Like you understand all the systems that are in the boat, and you can do a cursory inspection, if not a detailed inspection. But also make sure that you do a survey, that you get the best surveyor in the area. And up in the Chesapeake area, there's going to be a bunch of really good ones. So find a really good surveyor up there. If you want some references, I was on the, let's see here. The broker with the beard, Ed, is up in that area. He's in Annapolis. I actually invited him to be on the live a couple weeks ago. My timing was terrible. He had the Annapolis boat show that weekend, but hopefully he'll be him and or Captain Boomies, who I was on their Funny Boat podcast a couple months ago, will join us on a live at some point in the future. But he would probably have a good recommendation for surveyors in the area. Definitely do a survey. And then, it's sort out all the boats that don't qualify and don't, even if you love it, you fall in love with the boat. As soon as you find too many red flags or too many issues that, hey, I could buy it and it looks like a great deal, but if the generator goes out, if the hot water heater needs to be replaced, and that's usually 10, 15 years or so, maybe 20, is the lifespan of those type of systems, the air conditioning, the duct valves and the plumbing. Uh-oh, I may have to cut this short. I think we're all tired from a long weekend, a lot of late nights, and so if I miss out on some questions, I apologize, but this one may get cut a little bit short. But just make sure that you get that survey and that you find a good one. Ed is about as nice and as honest as you come in the business. Ed Pickering, you can see his number there. Just brokerwiththebeard.com is his site. So that is some of the suggestions, and pricing wise, I mean, I think you are gonna. Thank you, baby. Are you getting to bed? All right, love you. All right. Yes, we are tired and grumpy here at the Captain Matt household tonight. So those would be some things I would think about for sure. All right, let's see here. Come on. Did I freeze up on you? There we go. Okay. Blake, is a Mercruiser 6.2 300 or Volvo 300 more reliable saltwater use? Blake, let me know what year. The year is going to matter dramatically on my thoughts on that. So tell me what year you're looking at, and not as important, but just out of curiosity, what kind of boat, and I'll get to you. Sustainability, good to have you. Sitting in my chair, kids are fishing off the bank. A beautiful night in Illinois. Great weekend. Boats going into this weekend. Yes, it is getting there, especially in the Midwest. Time to get all ready. Order the try. Yeah. I would love to hear. How that works. I'm definitely on board with the box anchor, and my gut tells me the tri anchor will be as good. I can't come up with a reason why it wouldn't work as well. Based on my experience with the box. So yeah, definitely let me know. Okay. All right. So perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Brand new. I'm going to lean towards the Volvo for sure. Now, if you do go with the Mercruiser, you want Secor. And here's why I lean Volvo in that situation, is because Volvo is out of the box standard closed cool, which means that it's picking up raw water just to run through a heat exchanger to cool the antifreeze. It has an internal reservoir of coolant that will run through that heat exchanger to pull the heat out. But everything that's running through the system is actually internal coolant with corrosion inhibitors and all that stuff. And then all you need to do is flush that heat exchange out to keep that good. Now, on the Mercruiser side, they have that same technology, but it's an add-on. So it's not standard out of the box. You've got to go with the Secor technology on Secor. So if you're going new and you're in a saltwater environment, it may have the Secor on it. But let's see, that's probably drive. But the C-Core, why am I not finding this? $20.24. I'm not sure why I'm not finding this on a Mercruiser site. They've got to cruiser. They need some serious search engine optimization on the Mercruiser site. If this isn't coming up, Mercruiser, Mercury. Mm-hmm. 6.2. All right. I'm gonna have to die. I don't know why that's not easy to find. Mercruiser since the 80s has been great. Yeah, so okay, going into a 24-foot cuddy. Yeah, so I would lean towards the Mercruiser. And part of it is my gut tells me it's a little less expensive for the same. So I would put them as equivalent if it's a C-Core equipped closed cooled Mercruiser 6.2 versus the Volvo. But my gut tells me the Volvo is probably a little bit less expensive, but they're going to be neck and neck. The fact that Volvo does it standard, so all of theirs has that technology. It's just they might do it a little bit better. Although Mercruisers had the C-Core for probably close to 20 years, if not more, where they've done the closed cooling on their stern drives. So I wouldn't put the Volvo significantly ahead, but and then always my caveat is make sure you've got a Volvo technician, which up in Maryland, I would imagine they're plentiful. I would imagine, and again, Jerry's running that same. You probably got a 6.2, and he's got a 28 Express up there. Maybe 350. Yeah, Jerry, what do you have in your Regal? Yeah, that's probably what you've got. You probably got that same. Oh, I thought you said you were in the Chesapeake. Hang on. Maybe that was. Oh, that was 610. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So yeah, if you're in Florida, 5.3. Okay. All right, Blake, I apologize. I got you mixed up with 610, who's up in the Chesapeake, but yeah, it's a solid. It's going to be a solid engine. Just make sure that you've got a Volvo technician near you. If you're buying a Regal, depending on where you are in Florida, there's some good Regal dealers down there, and if they're here's the thing is if they're putting Volvos in, they're going to have Volvo trained technicians if that's how they order most of their inventory boats. And so that's not going to be as big a concern as if you're buying in a market that doesn't have them. So and that's interesting. I'm going to have to LS4C Regal. This will make Bo happy. Bo, I hope you're seeing this. Another Cuddy Cabin. Okay, so that I did a video on this specifically for Bo, or maybe I haven't done it yet, but about the Cuddies, the LS4C. Where are you at? LS4. Where's my LS4C? LS Surf. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so yeah, that is. It's got a little bit more headroom down in the cabin. That's a little taller than when I think Cuddy, I think even shorter, probably a foot shorter in there. But yeah, that's actually a decent sized cabin for a 24-footer. Little bit of headroom, even. Nice. I like it. Yeah. So as long as that dealer, Blake, as long as that dealer orders a lot of their boats with Volvos, and they've got a Volvo trained tech, I would lean that way. I would lean that way. Now, if they have one Volvo and most everything else is Mercruiser, then I would probably go with Mercruiser. But like I said, my gut tells me that the Volvo is going to be slightly less expensive because they do that standard. And I know the cost for the Mercruiser to go closed cooled is a significant jump. So I think you'll be good. And I've run mostly Mercruisers in my day. I sold Sea Ray, so all of those were Mercruisers. But I run at Lake Loudon is Volvo. In Lake Loudon, I run a Cobalt R5 that my in-laws have, 25-foot bow rider with the 6.2 Mercruiser. And it is awesome. I mean, it's solid, it's smooth, it sounds great. In a similar size, it's a bow rider, but in a similar size boat. I'm running it in freshwater, but it's still close cooled. It still has that heat exchanger. The one thing I'll tell you is, well, and this won't really matter because you're not going to winterize, but if you do ever close the drains and drain the heat exchange in your maintenance, if you're flushing that, it is common, I guess, talking to some Volvo technicians, it's common for when you crank it back up that sometimes that impeller doesn't prime right away. So you got to be real careful. Use the back of your hand to sort of touch the impeller housing. You'll see it. I think it's red, but it's easily accessible if you have the hatch open. Start it up and just touch that. I mean, it'll get hot instantly, he said. And if it's just warm to the touch, then it's priming. But if it's hot to the touch, put it in throttle only and give it a couple revs to increase that suction to get it primed, or crank it off right away before you burn it up. But he's like, it's every year they have people that this isn't a winterization climate where they winterize and it's been sitting for a period of time. Everything's all dried up and it doesn't get prime in just idle. And you gotta rev it up to get that suction increased a little bit. So just something to think about. Probably for you, not a common thing you'll have to deal with, but it is a good running in. All right, cool. Yeah, I thought you'd probably thought you might have had that in there in your Regal. Let's see here. Who is that? Santiago L. Welcome. Good evening, Captain Matt. All others. Hoping you can share your thoughts on Stingray boats. So let's see here. My brother-in-law and I are going in on a boat together, 23-foot CS, using in the Keys. I'm pulling for Sea Hunt. I'll tell you, Sea Hunt's the better boat. Stingray is more in the lower mid-tier to upper value level, for sure. When you start looking at Stingray boats, what did you say? 23S CSS. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure if it's this one, the 236 or not, but probably it's when you start doing okay. I just saw Jerry's. I thought it was in my head. I was like, I remember touching red, and it's pretty noticeable. Like when you're like, oh yeah, a flat red housing cover basically that's got a couple bolts, 4 bolts in it, and it was easily accessible on the Cobalt. I would imagine it would be as easily accessible on that. What are we talking about? On that Regal, for sure. I don't know on the Cruiser. It might be down a little bit more because your decking's going to be a little higher. But all right, so back to the Stingray. You can tell I'm a little tired and not on my game. We'll end it after this one here, but I do want to get Santiago his intel. So Stingray is going to be more of a value boat when you start. Like if you want to push your brother-in-law to, was it brother-in-law or brother? Brother-in-law. If you want to sort of say, hey, brother-in-law, let me show you why I think Sea Hunt is better. And I would agree. One is you can just say, hey, watch this video of this guy that I've heard of, and called the best and worst bow, our best and worst center consoles. Best and worst. So best and worst center consoles, that will be in there. And then I also talk about Stingray in the bow rider section, the best and worst bow riders right here. And I talk about it in that one as well, because they also make the bow riders. But what you do is you just take the butt of your hand and pound on the fiberglass below the rub rail. You'll hear a different sound. You'll hear the Stingray will be a little bit more hollow than the Sea Hunt will. Okay. Next thing you'll do is take your fingers up under the rub rail where the hull and the deck come together in that joint, and you'll run your fingers along, especially in this back area, anywhere where there's sort of some curve. So like right here, but I would do it all the way around the boat. And what you're feeling for is you're feeling for areas where the deck and the hull aren't super tight together, and they had to fill it with silicone or some sort of caulking. Okay. Every boat manufacturer does it. The good ones just have to put a bead in there because they seal it. But they also have all these screws in there, and they might even put some kind of a bonding agent in between, depending on how they fit it. But the tighter the fit happens when you have a thicker hull, when you use more fiberglass and have a thicker lamination schedule, because it's not as floppy when you go to join them together. And you've got to start somewhere, and then you start going around, and sometimes it can make the fit not be perfect. The tolerances are not as tight. So that would be the next thing. the Stingray on most boats. Now it's boat by boat. Maybe one boat they got and they nailed it. Like it was a great fit, and they joined up. But most Stingrays are going to have more caulking than most Sea Hunts. Okay, that's going to be the next. And then I would move to the interior. Well, actually, I would move to the bottom of the boats, and this is going to be indicative of the ride. I would guess, just from experience, that the Stingray is going to have a slightly shallower draft. And the reason for that is the bottom of the Stingray, which we're not going to have a picture of, but the bottom of the Stingray is going to have less dead rise than a comparable Sea Hunt. The Sea Hunt's going to have a little bit sharper dead rise angle. And so when you look at the back of the boat, it's this angle right here. So this is very, very little dead rise. You can almost see it's sort of flat on there. That's going to produce a rougher ride. It's going to be rougher. If you can imagine going through the chop, the sharper that angle through to the back, and it's kind of that back 2/3, that back third of it, that's the most important on how it's going to ride. If that's flatter, it's going to pound more. If that's sharper, it's gonna spray the water, and it's going to give you a more comfortable ride. If you go to the interior, and if those things are important, now obviously the Sea Hunt's also going to be a little bit more expensive because of these reasons. Like it takes more fiberglass. If you got a thicker hull, that's going to be more solid, going to give you a better ride. Well, it's also more material. It's going to cost more. Same thing with the interior. When you go to the interior, if you look at the thickness of the cushions, so a value cushion, and I take this little, I think I got one in here. I take this little tape measure with me when I'm inspecting boats, and I'll measure the thickness of the cushion. And you're kind of looking, when you get to like 2.5, that's kind of in that value category. When you get to 3.5, is sort of the premium level. And then there's also, not only is it thickness, but there's also quality of foam that you can talk to the sales guys, but most sales guys don't know the difference. Like they have one, they probably don't even know how to describe the foam that their brands use. They definitely don't have any idea what the competition uses. It's sort of one of those hidden things in a boat that you just have to know, like, hey, I can sit on it and I can feel, is this a premium foam or is this an inexpensive foam? Stingray is going to use, like, this is probably Stingray's cushions, and that maybe a 1/2 inch thicker is probably Sea Hunt's cushions. If you were to pull them apart, you would probably see Stingray has 2 different types of foams, maybe even one, but probably 2. And the Sea Hunt probably has 3. They've got 1 layers for drainage, 1 layers for support, and 1 layers for comfort is kind of how they do it. So Sea Hunt's going to win there. Again, better quality, more expensive. That's the trade-off is, hey, I can get a 23-foot boat in Stingray for this much, and I can get a 21-foot Sea Hunt for the same price. Or if I go 23 to 23, my price is going to be $20,000, $15,000, $20,000 more or so, ballpark, everything else being equal. So those are the main things that I would look at: the quality of the lamination schedule, the thickness, the bottom, the caulking, the fit. And the reason that's important is because over time, any caulk is going to get hard and it's going to dry up. And then ultimately, if you don't go back and reseal it every couple of years, what happens the more that's there, the bigger this problem is. As it shrinks, as it loses some of its pliability, flexibility, whatever you want to call it, water will shoot up in there, and now you'll start getting water inside the boat, and potentially you get water that's flowing in, and because the way the mold is trimmed, is you've got that the layers of lamination of fiberglass mat resin, fiberglass mat resin, fiberglass mat resin, like 7 layers of that water starts getting in there. It can start seeping between those lamination layers, and now you get what's called delamination, and they start coming apart, and you cannot fix it. You can't. Once it starts, it's causes structural damage. Now that's not going to happen over 5 years, but over a period of time, if water keeps getting in there and that issue is not resolved, you can have some serious problems on your hand. And so there's other things, but those are the major ones. If you want to, and you can just go stingray to sea hunt, and you'll see it. Like, you'll hear the sound differences. You'll see the differences of thickness. You'll see, this would be a question, but I would guess, my gut tells me stingray uses 306 stainless. Sea hunt probably uses 3/16 stainless. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe that's the case. 306 is going to rust faster than 3/16. It's a 306 is cheaper. 3/16 is going to be more expensive. That's where you get that price gap. Something to consider. So, all right, let's see. Overall thoughts on Tracker Pro Guide V175. Bought, rarely used, pristine, from an old guy, small body of water, that switched to a pontoon boat. I'm not super familiar with that boat. Tracker V175. All right, so a multi-species fishing boat. Yeah, it's a value boat. It's the Tracker, all of the Tracker brands, Sun Tracker pontoons, Tracker boats. They're all value brands, which means they do things to keep their price down. The reality is, though, it's a great boat for somebody that wants to get into boating and they don't need all of the extras. It's a totally safe boat. It's got a Mercury on it. They all have Mercuries on it. And if it's well taken care of, the boat's got a lot of good life left in it. But there are going to be some little ticky-tacky things that maybe you already see. It's a 10-year-old boat. So some ticky-tacky things like, the seats might be a little bit more wobbly. Some of the hatches and latches may not close great. You may have some gas assist struts, if it even has struts, that are gonna be wearing and need to be replaced. But for somebody that's going out fishing in fresh water, it's going to be a perfectly fine boat. But it's not luxury. It's not going to have a lot of the stuff. There's going to be little things that, if you were in a higher end aluminum fishing boat, let's say a Lund or something like that, that you would notice, but they are extras. They're not anything that's going to make you have more fun on the water or be safer. It's just extra stuff that you're like, oh, that's nice. That's more convenient. I really like that. That's more comfortable. It's going to be those types of things. So, but again, what I say to everybody is, after even 5 years on a used boat, it's more about the condition that particular boat that you bought is in. So I would take a really well taken care of V175 over the comparable, let's call it Polarcraft or Lund, that was not well taken care of. Like, yeah, it's a better built boat from the start, but if it wasn't taken care of, then it doesn't matter. Like, so that's the history and the care of the boat is much, much more important after you get past the first 5 years or so. What do you think about 2023 Sun Tracker 22 Party Barge with the 150 Merc? Let's see. Mock Zerf is hey, it's a value brand. I just mentioned that. If you go to the best and worst pontoon boats, it's in the value category. With that said, it's the same thing that I said about the V175. Is it's not as robustly built as the mid-tier and certainly the premium brands. but it's going to fit a lot more people's budget. In the end, it's got a Mercury on the back, which is the same thing that a Barletta has, the same thing that a Harris has. And so it's powered by the same. Now, the little details, just like I said about the Stingray to the Sea Hunt, when you start looking at details, more plastic being used throughout different things. Like, so instead of having a stainless steel latch, it'll be a plastic latch with chrome covering, like a chrome wrap on it. Okay. Instead of having the bimini rails and the fence rails, they're going to be slightly smaller than on the mid-tier, the premium. Like the thickness, the gauge of it's going to be a little bit less. The cushioning is going to be, they're going to be less and less quality. There's going to be little ticky-tacky things that come up that may be little annoyances. The tubes are, like, when you actually measure them, they're rated at 25 on the well, actually, I think on the party barges, on the X3s, XP3s, I think they're doing the bigger, so that's not going to be applicable. There's a lot of little things that they do to bring the cost down so that they can sell that boat for, I don't know, I think that boat's probably 54,000 with the trailer. They put it on a painted trailer, which if you're in saltwater, do not put that trailer in saltwater. You don't want to. If you're in freshwater all day long, you're fine. But that trailer will be shot within a year if you're in saltwater. So be aware of that on the tracker, the painted trailer they put with it. But we have, he hasn't been on for a while, but Brian Boyles up in West Virginia, got my first time boat buyer academy, bought my best boat captain program. He's got that exact boat, 22 XP3 with the 150. Him and his grandkids go out fishing. He's had it for 2 years now and loves it. If I had the time, I've got pictures of him and his kids fishing on it. And he loves it. So if it's something that fits your budget, you're comfortable with the foam's not as thick, the seats aren't as deep. I do love the storage that they have under the backrest of the bench seats. That's awesome. I think that's awesome storage. That's a genius idea that they came up with. But there's little plastic pieces on the gates where they latch that, hey, you got to be careful of those. They'll break at some point and you're going to have to deal with that. But it's going to be a fun boat to get you out of the water, especially if you're in fresh water. But if you want a more detailed, I've also got a mock. I've got a Sun Tracker. I've got a video right here, Sun Tracker pontoon preview, where I talk through it's 3 years old, but it all is applicable. I probably should update that one. But check that out if you want more of my thoughts on that particular brand. Thank you for your honest. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's why I try to take my bias out of the way I make my decisions, to just give, like, this is my honest opinion. When I went up and ran that boat the other day in Knoxville, I told the guy, I said, listen, if you want me to review this boat, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You get zero control over the editorial comments. If I'm going to say good stuff, but I'm also going to say the stuff that I didn't like. And you've got to be okay with that. If not, then don't even have me look at it, because that's the only way I can do it. But I also believe that there's even the Sea-Doo switch, which I'm like, I don't get it. It's a cheaply made boat. It's going to have problems down the line with fading, with things cracking, with water getting into the way they do their pontoon system, different things that I was like, these are problems with it. But even that boat, I think, is right for some people. Like, I think that some people are going to buy it and love it. And so who am I to say that that's a bad boat? It's not a bad boat. It's not right for me. Some things you need to know, some environments it's not right for. If you're going to leave that boat in the water for extended periods of time, a week or two at a time, it's probably not a good idea. But it's I just try to give honest advice. So you're very welcome for that. Maybe value brand the prices. Yeah. Well, there's no such thing as a cheap boat anymore. Like there is the prices have just gone through the roof and everything. Last question. I hear great things about Suzuki Outboards Canada. Most mechanics familiar with Mercs. So I would put Mercs just a slight hair higher in that 115 to 150 4-stroke category. I'm going to throw out the Mercury Pro XS, but just in the Mercury 4-stroke to the Suzuki 4-stroke, with the caveat of, if you don't have Suzuki technicians in your area, then I would lean towards Mercury. But engine to engine, they're so damn close that it doesn't matter. The reason I even put Mercury slightly higher is you can always find a Mercury technician, except for some pockets of the coast. But it's just they've got market share everywhere, and Suzuki doesn't yet. But they're going to get there because Suzuki's making a great engine with a great value as well, because of where they're coming in price point wise. And but I think there is some negative, Marty. I think there is some negative if you don't have a Suzuki technician. So if something does go wrong and you need somebody that can actually diagnose an issue, and you've got somebody that can change your oil and gear lube and impeller, but they don't have the Suzuki software and they don't have the right knowledge base to diagnose issues, well, then that's a problem as a boat owner. So that's where I would give Merc the edge a little bit. But just engine, technology, reliability, they're so close. And this is from me talking to Mercury dealers, Suzuki dealers, and Yamaha dealers. I put them all in the same. I put them all three right on an even playing field. Like, so there's probably up and downs for, different bands of their horsepower rating, where one wins here, one wins there. But when you look at them as a whole, I think they're so evenly matched now that the technology is so great that I wouldn't have a problem putting a Suzuki on anything, just like I wouldn't have a problem putting a Yamaha or Mercury on anything. And in my area, in the Carolinas, I can find a Suzuki mechanic as easily as I can find a Yamaha or Mercury one. So that would be the only thing at all that would put me on a Merc over a Suzuki, is if there wasn't a good Suzuki mechanic nearby. So, all right, somehow we hit over an hour. I was not expecting this at all, but I'm going to call her quits there. I appreciate everybody that joined us, stuck with me in my foggy, tired, starting, trash bags at Goodwill, clothes in the back, no bad camera, all of that. I appreciate everybody joining me, and we will do it again. Are we going to do it next weekend? Let's see here. I don't know. It's Memorial Day. You guys are going to be out on the water. You should be partaking in some sort of Memorial Day festivities. We may or may not do next weekend being Memorial Day. But if you see it posted, I'll be on. If not, I'll post like a little message, a little video message saying Happy Memorial Day, so you know. But anyway, if you do go out for Memorial Day, please be safe. There's a lot of new boaters that are going to be on the water that it's the first time they've hit the water. So be extra vigilant. Watch out for the folks that are drinking in excess that can be causing problems. Don't be one of them. Don't be one of them that's overindulging. Be safe, have fun, be on a lookout. The holiday weekends get busy, and there's a lot of folks that are less skilled and less aware than what they should be. If you see them, hey, tell them to get the best boat captain program from this guy named Captain Matt that can get them trained up real quick, like I did with Dustin with the pontoon that they rented. And we'll see you guys all in the next week or two. Thanks, everybody.